I call this meeting of the Duncanville Independent School District to order. Let the record show that a quorum of board members is present, that this meeting has been duly called, and that the notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. We will now go to the invocation by Joe Veracruz. Just a second. Okay, sorry. Kathleen? Yes. Go ahead, yes, come on up.
We are recommending that the board take action on the Director of Curriculum Instruction. Sylvia Martinez is being recommended for that position.
So, in closed session, the board approved my recommendation.
Okay, and during closed session, we approved Dr. Smith's recommendation.
Okay.
Is she here too?
She is, and
Good.
so I'd like to introduce her to you all.
Good.
Okay. All right, and
We
so
do.
Ms. Martinez, if you
Okay.
would join me.
Okay. Is there a motion that we approve?
Move to approve.
Thank you. All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed? None? 7-0. Thank you.
Thank
Nice to
you.
meet you.
All right. So I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce Ms. Dr. Martinez to you. Dr. Sylvia Martinez brings over 20 years of experience to her role as the new Director of Curriculum Instruction for Duncanville ISD. She has served in highly diverse school districts as a Spanish teacher and assistant principal, 2 of those years right here in Duncanville at Reed Middle School, as a principal, as an assistant superintendent for curriculum and instruction. Dr. Martinez is an innovative leader that believes in cultivating relationships and providing the necessary support to foster a highly effective learning community. She's excited to rejoin the Duncanville team as an instructional leader with a long-standing track record of success. I present to you Dr. Sylvia Martinez.
Welcome aboard, Sylvia.
Now to the invocation.
All right, please stand. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we are so thankful, Lord, that you've entrusted us enough, Lord, with the TRE and the new challenges we have ahead of us, Lord. I pray for this board. I pray for our superintendent, our leadership team, Lord, and everyone involved, Lord, that you make us great vessels, great stewards of everything that you've given us, Lord. As always, Lord, I pray for the safety of the students from the moment they wake up to the moment they return home, Lord, and everyone that has a hand in it. Bless our schools, Lord. Keep us safe. Keep us strong. In your mighty name I pray. Amen. Amen.
The Pledge of Allegiance will be by the DHS Collegiate Academy students.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you. I like your shirt.
Good
Those
job.
are nice.
Good job. Thank you for being here.
Good job.
Good job. Thank you for being here.
Good job. We now welcome Tiara Richard for recognitions.
Picture,
Oh, picture, sorry.
introductions.
sorry.
Board of Trustees, I am honored to present to you scholars from the future graduating class of 2022. We have Kaylee Rhea, Evan Lee, Isaac Bennett, and Michael Pacheco.
Now, Tara Richard, I am out of sync tonight, and I'm really trying to get back on it, but Tara Richard.
Good evening. We have our pledges back, and so getting back into the rhythm of things, this is the first time we've had our students do pledges in quite some time, so thank you for your patience. We appreciate that. We also have our Made with Pride and Duncanville honorees who are being recognized for the first time since the end of the school year. And up first, we have our Teacher of the Month, Mr. Robert Hasso. So, Mr. Hasso is a teacher at Central Elementary School. He was nominated by Principal Ms. Sherry Smith.
Duncanville ISD congratulates the following students.
That'll come up later. There are gremlins in the board meeting this meeting. So, Mr. Hasso has the biggest heart for kids. He goes above and beyond for kids at every opportunity. He solicited donations of guitars from area businesses to start the Central Elementary School Guitar Club. They meet after school each day to learn basic guitar skills. He also makes sure that he develops close relationships with students and encourages them to believe in themselves. One example is a student who had struggled for several years to succeed academically, socially, and even behaviorally. Mr. Hasso nurtured that student and tutored her, and ultimately she ended up passing the STAR test just this last year. So as a reward this summer, he bought her a bicycle and delivered it to her home to recognize her accomplishments. This student's smile was a mile wide, and although she no longer is a student here in Duncanville, she continues to keep in touch and try to continue her growth and improvement with Mr. Hasso. For his influence and dedication to children, Mr. Hasso is our Made with Pride in Duncanville Teacher of the Month. Congratulations. He made it through without tears. I'm impressed. Up next, we have our Staff of the Month, Miss Eva Mitchell. All right, each one of these are very, very special, but Miss Mitchell is a very special woman who we are so, so proud to recognize today. Ms. Mitchell is a cafeteria manager at Bill Hart's Elementary, and she was nominated by Reading Center teacher Carolina Posado. Ms. Mitchell is always very attentive to the needs of staff, students, and teachers. She truly cares for students and makes sure that their well-being is her priority. A perfect example of that. One day, a student walked in through the cafeteria doors with her shoes in her hand. She was barefoot. The girl didn't want to answer about why she wouldn't put her shoes on. One of the teacher assistants sat her down so the little girl could try to put her shoes on, but she was forcing them on. It was obvious that they were too small. So Eva watched this exchange, and about 30 minutes later, Ms. Mitchell had brought the little girl a new pair of shoes and some socks. She called the teacher assistant to get the little girl and have her try on the shoes. Well, now these didn't fit very well either. They were too big. So Ms. Mitchell went and I got another pair of shoes for her, and these fit just right. We're like the Goldilocks right here story. So Ms. Posado, when she nominated her, she wrote, "I was very touched by how compassionate Ms. Mitchell is towards our students. As our lead nutrition staff, she demonstrated how important it is to care for the whole child. She does not just focus on nutrition and cafeteria needs, although she does that very, very well, but she also demonstrates concern for all aspects of learning. It really does take a village." Thank you. Our Made with Pride in Duncanville, Staff of the Month, Ms. Eva Mitchell. Last but not least, we have a special, special student I'm so glad and proud to bring up here, Mr. Andrew De La Pina. So, Andrew is a third grader at Hyman Elementary School, and he was nominated by Hyman art teacher Candace Jones. Andrew really exhibits a high level of artistic talent. He is so very creative. But like all talents, you have to nurture them and grow them. And Andrew finds every opportunity to show off his talents and develop his gift. Andrew's artwork has been displayed at the Art District Show every year since he was a kindergarten student. It's a long time. Last year, he won second place for his creative design, and Andrew is able to imitate anything he sees in art class, even the work that his art teacher creates. And not only does he imitate it, but he takes what his teachers do, he takes what his teachers present and takes it to another level and really makes it his own. So for Andrew, it's not just about art for the sake of art. He also uses art to help him learn new information in other subjects. So Andrew's enthusiasm about learning is just contagious. Other students feel it, they love it, and he shares that with all who he comes in contact with. So I'm proud and glad to announce that Andrew is our Made in Pride in Duncanville Student of the Month for September. And now we also have a video to show a little bit more about our honorees.
Duncanville ISD congratulates the following student, staff member, and teacher who were made with pride in Duncanville.
Being a special education teacher and working inclusion in the classrooms, I started noticing that a lot of our students were having troubles making connections with, the stories that we're reading and the books that we're reading. So, that's the reason behind the Guitar Club, to give children experiences that they've never had before, and of course, give them a fun activity to do as well.
I nominated Andrew because he's just an amazing student. He's a great artist. He takes his creativity and uses it in everything that he does, whether he's in the art room or if he's in class working on math or science.
I use my imagination, what's going on in my brain.
I'm a single mother of 5, and I work a lot. I work 3 jobs. And sometimes I never know how my kids go to school. Seeing the situation here, it just makes me wonder, how did my kid made it to school today? So by me helping these kids, I feel that someone out there is looking out for mine. And that's the reason I do the things that I do.
These honorees truly are made with pride in Duncanville.
And behind each of these really great honorees and super deserving honorees are teachers, staff, and family members who help them step out and be able to do what they do. So I'd like to ask any family members, principals, or staff to please stand up and recognize you also. Thank you.
Thank you, Tiara. I think I'll pick up from here on the recognitions. I would like to call Mr. Mike Kreitzberg to the podium there, please. Mike. You still move pretty good to me at 42 years. So it is a pleasure and an honor for me to be able to give you this recognition. What I'd like to do here is present a crystal to you that is a small token from us as the district to recognize you for your service here to Duncanville ISD. And then I know each board member has some things that they would like to share with you, and I want to give them an opportunity to do that. But from me, you know, commitment is a word that is used in a lot of ways today, and rather loosely. And so when you're in a district for 42 years, I think that is commitment. Wouldn't you agree with that? And so I personally want to thank you for your service that you have provided for Duncanville ISD. You know, you always want to make an impact on someone else's life and be a part of their story. And so since I've been here, I've heard the impact that you have had on so many people. And this is a true story, I promise. So I had some plumbing work that I needed to have done. And so I just randomly called this plumber, and the plumber came by. And so he got to talking to me. You know, plumbers are pretty conversational. So he got to talking to me, asking me what I did for a living, and I tried to avoid saying I was superintendent. So I said, oh, I'm in education. He said, oh, well, where do you work? I said, oh, I'm in a district not too far from here. And then he said, well, what district do you work in? I said, I work in Duncanville. He said, oh, I graduated from Duncanville High School, and my principal was Mr. Kreitzberg. And I said, guess what? He still works there. We're on the same team. So there are many, many, many stories of people that you've touched. And he had positive things to say, by the way. So there are many people that you've touched, and I hope that in my span of my career that, you know, I'll be able to look back and have had a positive impact on the people that I was charged with working with. And then for me personally, I came to the district 2 years ago, and Mike obviously had been here for 42 years, or about there at that point in time, and had a wealth of knowledge and experience. And I want to tell you, I am very appreciative of the support that you have given me transitioning to the district. And truly, I know that you want what's best for Duncanville, and it shows not just in your words, but in your deed. And so I want to say personally, thank you for supporting me. And so actually, we have another event for Mr. Kreitzberg tomorrow. And so it starts at 4 o'clock, and I've tried to keep some of this a secret. I don't know how good I've done. He may have picked up some of the things that we're going to do for him, but I'm trying to keep it a secret. Ms. Kreitzberg helped me with that. I sent her an email earlier asking her what your favorite cake was, so hopefully we'll be able to keep that a secret for you. But we're just excited for you. We know you're not going anywhere. You're going to be here and still supporting our district. So we have a crystal. And so I want to read the crystal, and it just highlights basically the years of success that you've had here. And it just says, Mike Kreitzberg, so many success stories because of you. And then it goes on to read August 1976 through June of 1987, science teacher and a coach at Byrd Middle School. I heard you were a pretty good coach, too.
Yeah. Oh, well, had good players.
And then August of 1987, June to 1989, assistant principal at Reed. And then from August of 1989 to June of 1990, assistant principal at the 9th grade DHS campus. From 1990 in August to 2011, principal at Duncanville High School. From 2011, 2012, executive principal at Duncanville High School. And then served as chief of staff from March of 2012 to January 2015, and since that time has been assistant superintendent of campus support. And the title definitely fits who you are in terms of support. And so this is just a small token from the district to you. And so I'd like to present this to you, and then I'd like to pass the baton to the board members to share some comments. And then we'd like to shake your hand. So we can start on this end.
Mr. Kreitzberg, I did that everything, every success that any of us who ever worked for you ever had was because of the leadership that you gave us each and every day. There are numerous kids, there are teachers, a wealth of people all over the community that always look back on the years that we spent with you. And on a personal note, I remember you helped me and Phil raise Kristen, which was sometimes a challenge, and I appreciate your patience with us during that time. I think I gained the most respect for you when I first got up there as a support counselor, and we were trying to build that big old school. And you were always calm. Your door was always open when we had questions. When there was ruckus going on at the school, you always handled it with grace. And we can't replace you, but we will always remember all that you did for us and with us. And I thank you.
Thank you, Renee.
Mr. Kreisberg, I just want to say thank you for all that you've done for so many students. Just like Dr. Smith said, you have touched so many. One being my daughter. She graduated from Duncanville High School in 2003, and as I was planning my calendar with your event tomorrow, she was over my shoulder. She said, "Mr. Kreisberg is retiring?" She became a little emotional. So I just want to say thank you for all that you've done. You may not know all of the students that you've touched and made a difference in their lives. Maybe you do, I don't know, but you did. You touched my daughter's life and our life. We thank you for all that you've done.
Thank you.
Mr. Kreisberg, first time I met you was at the Noon's Lions Club.
That's not the way I always act.
Right. And then when I became an elected board member, I got to go behind the door and actually see you as a professional, and I was very impressed, and I have been ever since then. Congratulations on your 40 years, your service, and you'll be missed.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I want to thank you, too, for helping raise my son. He was a challenge, but you taught him to take responsibility for his actions, and I really appreciate that. He's really grown and matured, and you'd be pleased to know that you had a hand in that. But I really appreciate it, and I appreciate working with you, too. You were a good co-worker. You really gave me advice, and I appreciate that very much. Thank you.
Well, I said I wasn't going to talk to you or even look at you, but here I am. We go way back, and not just in a professional trustee, school person, but I've known you as a presence in our community. Your help with the Education Foundation. I don't think you ever missed a PTA meeting. I don't think you, and being president of Lions Club it's out there. I could never forget you and all that you've done for the students and the community. My boy's principal, and I'm getting ready to lose it, so I just,
Thank you.
I appreciate all that you've done, Mike.
Thank you.
Are you sure you want to do this?
Well, you're having a good time. I thought I'd try it out.
Well, it's not for everybody, though. I've got some stories that I can tell, and I've got some stories I can't tell.
That's true. Thank you.
It was a pleasure. Mike was my boss for 20 years, and I've known him as a man, a great leader, a man of integrity, someone you could count on, that kept his word, and I never worked for a better person. And now you can pay me later, okay? But with what you've meant to this district, we won't know until you're gone. And all I can say is the best thing I can say is that I can call you a friend.
Yes, sir.
Mike, I guess we go back a long way. But from my first term on the board in '91, you were always accommodating and welcoming, and I always felt comfortable when I came to the high school because you'd walk around with me in the halls and explain things that were going on, and that helped me a lot to get grounded and founded in what I'm trying to do with the school district. And I appreciate that. My daughter also graduated from Duncanville High School in 2007, and you helped us understand her and some of the issues she had, and worked with us to get her through school, and we appreciate that. And you wrote a letter of recommendation for her to go to A&M, and we appreciated that a whole lot because that's where she went. So I'm proud to have known you for all these years, and I don't think the district will ever be the same without you here and the things that you've done. And I know I've read the stories, and I've seen the stories of other people and what they've had to say, and I couldn't agree more, that you are just who you are. You're the guy that made it all happen. So I appreciate you very much.
Thank you very much.
So, Mike, we'd like to present this on behalf of the board and the school district. So, thank you. And the board, we wanted to get a picture with the board. We were gonna go down.
Well, Dr. Smith, thank you so much, and board as well. Certainly a relationship with each one of you through the school system or through the community. It means a lot to have individuals that choose to serve our district, such as yourselves. Dr. Smith, it's taken me 42 years to finally think, okay, I can leave now. We've got it under control here. So, yeah, thank you.
I don't know about that.
Well, you're only number 7, so,
Yeah.
42 years, 7 superintendents, you're going to be here a little while longer.
That's the plan. That's the plan.
All right, that is the plan. And then in turn, want to thank all the people that I have worked with. I never worked for anybody, I worked with them. They, in turn, no one ever worked for me, they worked with me. And it's been a pleasure. I've just been at the right place at the right time, I guess, for 42 years to stay with Duncanville. Didn't know where it was when Joe Howe called me in July of 1976, but I quickly found it because he said I'd be here at 8 o'clock in the morning, so I did. And it was meant to be. And so happy that my family has grown through this community and through the school system. So thank you so much for the kind words, and thank you for what you do each and every day. I would like to recognize my partner in life. That's my wife, Christine. She's agreed to work 2 more years so I can have a little bit of time to myself. Really, she's a good sport, so I really appreciate that. But again, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
We have one last recognition for today.
All right, an additional recognition, we'd like to call up Mr. Jim McDonald. So, Mr. McDonald went above and beyond in a personal way. He was listening to Dr. Smith at a chamber meeting talk about our students and the scholarships and just all the great things going on in the district. And he was speaking about scholarships that are out there. And so he said he went home that night, slept on it, but then something told him he was moved to take action and to give of his own. So through his company, through State Farm Insurance, he is given a $5,000 scholarship donation to a student in need at the high school. So again, this is out of his pocket. He said that essentially that his daughter went to Central, went to Reed, and graduated from Duncanville High School and received a great education here in the district. And so he'd like another graduate who's receiving a great education to have the opportunity to continue on and pursue higher education even further. And so thank you so much for giving of your business and your time for that donation.
I just wanted to thank Dr. Smith. He spoke at our recent Chamber of Commerce meeting, and he mentioned about these scholarships. And I thought, well, this is a good way to give something back to our school district. My daughter, as he mentioned, went to Central Elementary, Reed Junior High, Reed Middle School, and Duncanville High School, played in our great Duncanville High School band, and for 4 years played trombone, and she got an excellent education here. She had wonderful teachers all the way through, and so it was Dr. Smith who was responsible and for asking me, and I thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And now back to Dr. Smith for the superintendent's reports.
Thank you, Madam President. I have the following items that I would like to report to the board. Duncanville ISD was accepted into the Dallas County Promise for the 2018-19 school year. In June of 2018, we developed an action plan for this school year. And so I am so delighted and proud to report on some of the activities that took place on last week. You know, we are making a commitment to create a college-going culture in our district. Dallas County Promise is definitely going to be a great opportunity for many of our students to realize that dream. And so students throughout the district, they made a commitment. We talked about commitment just a little bit ago, but made a commitment to post-secondary opportunities as part of the Duncanville ISD's I Promise and the Dallas County Promise campaign. And so the goal of the partnership is to increase student access to college by offering free college tuition for graduating seniors. And so last week, students were able to sport their college and university t-shirts as part of College Wednesday. And so in our effort to continue to maintain our college-going culture and prepare our students for success, we've developed several goals for our seniors this year to increase the number of seniors that are completing their FAFSA, to decrease the number of our students who are required to take remediation classes, to increase the number of students that are receiving college credit, at least 12 credit hours, and then also to increase the number of students that enroll in college. In 2017, we had 62%, and so we're looking to increase that goal this year with the class of 2019. And the Dallas County Promise has generated a lot of excitement, a very focused effort. We have excellent staff that work with the students to get them prepared to meet the challenges that exist for them to realize their college dreams. And so I wanted to report on you the status of Dallas County Promise and the numerous events that we had going on last week on multiple campuses as students made their commitment. And they promised to pursue a college education. So we're proud and supportive of that. The second item that I want to share with you this evening is an update on our police department. In 2 weeks, next week, I guess, we'll be attending, the board and I will be attending the TASA-TASB conference. And so our district was selected to do a presentation about the development of a police department at the TASA-TASB conference. And so that is an awesome opportunity for us to be able to talk about our plan and our process that we put in place to build a police department and share with other districts from across the state the plan that we took. And so we're going to be focusing on the fact that, you know, we wanted to emphasize our officers being able to build relationships with students. We, of course, wanted to have a consistent police presence. We wanted that understanding of school law and our police department being able to balance that. We wanted to take a preventive measure in terms of being preventive with crime, and then collaborating with outside law enforcement, and then more control over officer staffing. So we're going to share details about our program with other school districts across the state, and we're really proud of the work that we've done. Appreciate the board in supporting us in developing our police department, and looking forward to sharing the good news across the state. The last item that I have for you is just an update on the TRE penny swap. Last week, last week we were fortunate to get the official news that our TRE was indeed successful, and that is an attestament to this board for your commitment and supporting us, having the foresight to be able to allow me to move forward in that direction. And then we want to thank the community. We had a little over 59% in favor, and so in today's climate, that is a very solid voucher of support. And so we're very appreciative of that, and we'll be continuing to provide reports and have a transparent process so that we can report out to our community the things that we're doing with the additional funding. And so I wanted to report out on that and thank the board and the community for their support. So those are the items that I have. I'll turn it back over to Madam President.
Thank you. We will now move to the consent agenda. Do I have a motion?
Madam President, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the consent agenda as presented with the addition of items A, B, H, J, and K from the action agenda.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, please raise your right hand. There's no opposed. Motion carries 7-0. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended?
Move to approve.
Second.
Cassandra.
Thank you. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Any opposed? No. Motion passes 7-0. Now we'll go to the action agenda. To action C. Excuse me. We now move to action agenda item C, Police and Security Operations Agreement presented by Chief Hampton.
Good evening, Madam President, Board of Trustees, Dr. Smith, and Chief Hampton, and I'm here to present to you the Police Security of Operations. Just to give you a little background, the Texas Commission on Law Enforcement, which we call TCO, is basically the government body for all of the law enforcement agencies as well as the peace officers in the state of Texas. This body basically oversees all of the law enforcement departments within the state of Texas, which Duncanville, of course, is one of those agencies now. So they are making sure that, they making sure that we establish the general orders as well as the operations for the Duncanville Police Department. And they're making sure that Duncanville Independent School District Police Department comply with all of the laws and regulations set forth by TCO. So basically, the Bowman Group, in which Duncanville is familiar with that group, they worked with this group in the past, and seeking out the chief of police for the group is the reason that I'm here. So they already have a working relationship, and the Bowman Group is willing to come back and basically assist me in making sure that we are meeting the regulations and the rules set forth by TCO. It's very important that you establish a good relationship with TCO up front, because they're the ones, like I said, that oversee the police department. They're gonna be coming out and doing audits and everything. So we wanna make sure that we have everything in order to pass the audits, and doing everything that we can in order to meet the regulations set forth by TCO. So the Bowman Group is willing to come back and help establish a police and recruiting, a hiring process. They're going to help create and make sure that we have our training in place, and to where we are meeting the needs of TCO, help the integration of our existing security into the police operations, and just any other things that I need them to assist me with, and continue to develop the police department. The Bowman Group is going to be willing to do that. So this agreement is being presented to the board tonight for the approval. This agreement may be greater than $50,000. So it's recommended that the board approve the agreement as presented. I may answer any questions that you may have at this time.
Are there any questions?
I do.
Yes.
Just a question. In reading all the information he presented to us, and it sounds like he really knows what he's doing, but I noticed there wasn't any other school districts listed that he had worked with. Has he worked with other school districts before?
From my understanding, he hasn't worked with any other school district. There is a subject matter expert that's on his team that I'm familiar with that is working with several school districts. They're working with several school districts now that are under consent decrees. And when I say consent decrees, these are actually the school districts that are having issues or problems that the government are having issues and problems with, and want to make sure that they bring them into the fold to get them back on track. So I am aware of that, but other school districts, I'm not aware of it as of right now. I've heard that they are supposed to be working with maybe DeSoto to get their school district police department started, but I don't have anything to confirm that right now.
I just wondered, I noticed that there's so much other stuff in there that I was amazed that there wasn't a list of school districts he had worked with, since we were going to choose them for us.
Any other questions?
Do I have a motion to consider approval of police and security operations agreement?
Madam President, I move to approve the agreement with Bowman Associates to provide operational guidelines for our police department.
I'll second.
Are there any further discussion? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Any opposed? Motion passed 7-0. We now move to agenda item D, purchase of police cars.
So the purchase of police cars, as part of the new Duncanville ISD Police Department, I ask your permission to purchase 4 vehicles for our officers. The vehicles quote information is provided before you in the material that you have there tonight. The vehicles that were selected are going to be 4 Ford SUV Interceptor vehicles, and those were some of the vehicles that I showed the last time I came to the board, the picture that I had with the package and everything. So those are the vehicles that we're looking to purchase, and since we made that selection, we're selecting 2017 model, which are brand new models, and because we are selecting those models, we've been able to save $10,000 up front just by selecting those particular models. So because the purchase exceeds $15,000, of course, the bid is being presented to the board for approval. And the budget that is going to be the existing budget for Dallas County schools that this funding is going to come from. So I'll be able to answer any questions that you may have at this time.
Go ahead.
I noticed looking at the 2 different pricing summaries that, first off, I wondered why we were buying 2 and then buying 2 and just not buying 4, all in the same order.
I can actually answer that question. The bids for those cars, 2 of them have cages, and that's not the appropriate word, but the what is that, I'm sorry, the petitions in the back, and 2 of them don't. And so that was the difference in the pricing. So it's a total of 4. I know those invoices are a little bit confusing. Each individual invoice has 2 cars per invoice. The other thing I did want to point out too, when the chief talked about $10,000 savings, that's per vehicle. So it was a substantial vehicle. We were able to get in on the very last of the 2017s that were in stock on those, so.
I have one other question.
Okay, Carla, go ahead.
And they're brand-new 2017s.
Yes, ma'am.
Tom?
The other question I had was, I noticed that there's a graphics allowance on 2 of them, but there's not a graphic allowance on the other 2. Are they not going to be decorated, or whatever the right term would be?
It should be a graphic allowance on 3 of them. And the graphic allowance that it's not on should be the vehicle that I'm going to drive, which is going to be equipped with lights and everything, but it's not going to have a graphic package on it. And that's because whenever I go to meetings and things like that, I'm not going to always be in uniform. So I don't want the police to, when people tend to see police and need them, they flag them down.
Yeah.
So I don't want to have to do that, and then I get out and not in uniform and can't address the situation properly. So that's normal for law enforcement, for the chiefs and executive staff to not have graphics on their vehicles.
That's fine. I just noticed it and just wondered if we were going to have unmarked cars. That's all.
Yes, sir.
Yes, Renee?
And you did say that these cars are being purchased from existing money from Dallas County. Is that what you said that we had? It's not new, it's existing. We had that we were going to pay Dallas.
That's right. So the account that will be coming from is from the money that we had budgeted for Dallas County schools. And
Okay.
so I think Dr. Bibby confirmed, but that's right, yes.
Okay, that's
Very good. Do I have a motion to consider approval of purchase of police cars?
Madam President, I move to approve the purchase of police cars to use by the Duncanville ISD Police Department.
I second it.
That was Renee.
All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion passes 7-0. We now move to action agenda item E, interlocal agreement with the City of Duncanville for police services.
So a little bit of background about the interlocal agreement. The purpose of the interlocal agreement with the Duncanville PD is to establish common understanding of policy and procedures and services that will be provided to the Duncanville ISD Police Department in the City of Duncanville, the County of Dallas, and the State of Texas. This formal agreement will clarify jurisdictions as well as define the parameters and the areas of responsibilities, as well as establish a spirit of partnership and cooperation to enhance the services that both agencies, Duncanville PD and Duncanville ISD PD, provide to the citizens and visitors of the City of Duncanville, as well as the staff and students of Duncanville ISD. So this is just going to bring the 2 departments together in order to build a better relationship. So upon approval by the Board of ISD of Trustees, the interlocal agreement will be presented to the City of Duncanville City Council for approval. So if you have any questions at this time, I can answer.
Tom?
I have a question about this one as well. In reading the agreement, it says police services to Duncanville ISD schools in the City of Duncanville, Dallas County, which we have several schools that are not in the City of Duncanville, obviously in the City of Dallas. So we're going to have another interlocal agreement with the City of Dallas?
Yes, sir, and I am working on that interlocal agreement with Dallas County right now. I just didn't have it together to present at this time, but one will be coming forward.
I figured as much. I just wanted to make sure that.
Yes, sir.
Any questions? Yes, Carla?
I had a question. The $125 per arrest to be booked into the Duncanville?
Yes.
Okay, is that just a one-time booking, or is that $125 per day, or
It's
is
just
that-
a one-time booking fee.
Okay.
Yeah, just a one-time booking fee, and normally it's much more than that. So that's a pretty good price that we have with Duncanville PD, and it's just one time.
Yes.
I have another question. The paragraph, the parties acknowledge that the involvement of the Mansfield ISD Police Department with the Duncanville ISD Police Department is intended to be limited in time. The services provided under this agreement shall survive the withdrawal of services of the Midlothian ISD Police Department from the Duncanville ISD Police Department. I didn't
know that we were
It shouldn't be
in
Midlothian.
service with.
It should have been
Mansfield.
It should have been
Okay, it says
Mansfield.
Midlothian.
That's a
Okay.
typo. Yes, ma'am, I
Okay,
apologize
thank
for
you.
that.
I got confused on that one.
Was that your question?
Thank you.
Very good. Do I have a motion to consider approval of the interlocal agreement with the City of Duncanville for police services?
Madam President, I move to approve the interlocal agreement with the city of Duncanville.
I second.
Okay, Tom has moved and seconded by Carla. All of those in favor, please raise your right hand. Thank you. Motion passes 7-0. We now move to agenda item F, interlocal agreement for criminal justice information sharing via Dallas County Tech Share Prosecutor, TSP.
So a little background on that. In July of 2012, the Dallas County Commissioner Court approved the Dallas County participants, which law enforcement agencies are the participant, to participate in the Tech Share Prosecutor Software Development Project. And in March of 2014, Dallas County DA's office was successful in their Go Live event and has been operating in this software in the production environment since 2014. This agreement basically outlines each entity's duties. When I say entities, each law enforcement, whether it's Duncanville ISD or Duncanville ISD PD, it identifies and outlines each entity's duties and responsibilities with regard to information sharing, specifically criminal justice information, as it relates to filing adult and juvenile criminal cases with the DA's office, but also the capability of searching police-related data on a statewide basis. Any subjects that we come in contact with that has been dealt with throughout the state of Texas, by us being a part of the participant of this program, we'll have access in order to search that on a statewide level in order for us to find out whatever information need to be had that will assist us in our investigation. So if we're not a part of this program, then basically we will have to call each individual law enforcement agent to find out if they have dealt with this individual before, or if we're a part of this program, we'll have that access accessible to us very easily.
That's good. Are there any questions? Any questions? Okay. Do I have a motion to consider approval of the interlocal agreement for criminal justice information sharing via Dallas County Tech Share Prosecutor, or TSP?
Madam President, I move to approve the memorandum of understanding with Dallas County.
Second. Cassandra.
Thank you. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. No opposed. Motion passes 7-0. We now move to action agenda item G, memorandum of understanding with Dallas County to participate in Urban County's Tech Share Juvenile Program.
And basically, it's the same thing. It's the same program, it's just the juvenile side of it. It allows us the same access on the juvenile side as well as the adult side, so it's all one program.
I see. Any questions? Do I have a motion to consider approval of memorandum of understanding with Dallas County to participate in Urban County's Tech Share Juvenile Program?
Madam President, I move to approve the memorandum of understanding with Dallas County.
Thank you. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. No opposed. Motion passes 7-0.
She's off the hook finally.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you.
You did a great job.
Thank you so much.
Our next item is I. We now move to action agenda item I, request to the Texas Education Agency, or TEA, for a maximum class size exception waiver. Mike, your last duty.
Yes. Madam President, Board of Trustees, and Dr. Smith, present to you for your review and in addition approval for submission of request to the Texas Education Agency for maximum class size exception waiver. Anytime we have a kindergarten through fourth grade class exceed the student-teacher ratio of 22 students to one teacher, we are then required within 30 days to submit an application of waiver for that exception of when we exceed the 22 students. And again, each time a section exceeds the 22 students, we then are required then to submit, again, additional waiver requests. This is all the way through up until the final 12 weeks of the school year. We're not required to do so. But in addition to this, we're also requesting that you approve that our superintendent of schools has the authority then to approve those waiver requests in the future beyond this evening's submission. Provided to you are the numbers in regards to the number of waivers that we're requesting, noting that this is a reduced amount from previous years, and we do not anticipate too many additional waivers, again, just dependent upon enrollment. The district is making efforts to balance classes and in turn properly assign staff at those grade levels where they can be moved from possibly one campus to another. Again, our efforts are not to move students, because we do believe in the neighborhood attendance zone concept for our students, and we have been successful in the past in regards to keeping those students close to their neighborhood campuses. So certainly welcome any questions you may have.
Okay. Mike,
Yes.
what will the class sizes become? If they're not 22 to 1 with a waiver, what will the class size be?
One that would exceed 22. We
How many kids?
currently have 9 classes that are at 23 of the 45 we're requesting. We also have 8 classes that are at 2 over at 24. We're still in the process through our chief of schools and also Ms. Brown through the personnel department are looking at ways to utilize staff more appropriately. Also adding teaching staff if that is so called to help assist with the class sizes. But a large class can be 28.
Any of those large classes that, in the 3 campuses that are under improvement required?
Those, let's see, they do have sections larger than 22 to 1. They do, but we're working at, the district is, yeah, go ahead, please. So Ms. Brown is looking at the staffing. That's her venue.
At the 3 campuses, at all of our campuses, we've been looking at the numbers, and we have a plan that's already in motion that we've started to implement. One, transferring staff over to those campuses, and then potentially adding additional FTEs to make sure that those class sizes are below. At the 3 campuses that you spoke of, our campuses that are IR, those are our priority, and we're trying to make sure that those stay. And so that's where we're funneling those extra FTEs to, because we know that that's going to be critical. In some instances, that's a teacher, and then in addition to that, in some instances, when it's right over the 22, giving them some paraprofessional support, even with the class size that's just 1 student or 2 students over.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Do I have a motion to consider approval of request to the Texas Education Agency, TEA, for a maximum class size exception waiver?
Madam President, I move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion passes 7-0. We now move to action item L, Texas Education Agency, TEA, Professional Service Providers, PSPs, for improvement required IR campuses. Kathy Sewell.
Thank you, Madam President, Board of Trustees, Dr. Smith. First of all, I'd like to say thank you for allowing me this opportunity to address you again regarding some TEA required formalities and planning documents that we need to present to you this evening. The first thing I'd like to do is just, as a reminder, we did present action plans and protocols and information to you in the August board meeting. As a result of the district's planning, as a result of the principals and the chief's planning, and already being ahead, one step ahead of what we needed to do for TEA. Since that time, TEA has informed us of the formality of the Targeted Improvement Plan, which we'll review with you tonight. Most of it will be similar information, but as part of that continuous improvement process, as we continuously improve, we're going to bring different things to you related to data, because we want to be data informed and data driven. With that being said, I want to first introduce Dr. Vicki Harper. She is with us this evening. She is our professional service provider. Dr. Harper, you back there? Yes, there she is, waving. And she has been, she's had extensive experience as a successful elementary school principal in Abilene and also here in Duncanville. She has also worked in various districts for the last 10 years as a professional service provider to turn around low-performing schools. So she comes to our district with a lot of experience and a lot of good references, and so we look forward to her expertise and supporting our IR campuses in this process. Before I begin the other part of the presentation, I would also like to thank Ms. Stephanie Bonneau. She was very instrumental in helping us with the district leadership team process for our district overview that I'll provide to you now. So Ms. Bonneau, thank you very much. Appreciate your direction in that department. So the second slide that I have tonight just basically says, why do we need to do this? And TEA does require that districts who have a rating below a 70 in one of the accountability areas must have an improvement plan in place targeted to those specific areas. So for us, our two areas are student achievement at a 69 and closing achievement gaps at a 67. While they're close to 70, they're not at 70. So we do have a plan in place. As I referenced, Ms. Bonneau collected a large group of stakeholders from Duncanville ISD to give us input, feedback, and to look at data with us from a different perspective that each stakeholder could bring to the process. And so it was a rich process that resulted in a good plan. What is the benefit for us doing this? Well, basically, it's an additional method. It's an additional way for us to look at data, and it's keeping us accountable so that those scores will go up and that we're monitoring and measuring it through the TEA process. Lastly, the committee will monitor. We will meet not only at our schools that are IR, but all of our schools that contribute to our overall district rating. Those monitoring activities will go on at the schools with the chiefs, with myself and the academic division, but then that will also come to the leadership team for those quarterly accountability reports. And so that's an additional level of monitoring that's going to be deployed as a result of this planning process. Okay, I feel like the mic just came on, but I think I just started speaking more closely to it. So we did create goals, and the goals are similar to what we presented in August, but there are some areas of specificity that we did uncover in our conversations. So we're looking at, again, instruction, special populations for particularly special education and English learners, and as well as our college, career, and military readiness component. So our first area that we identified under instruction, basically I'm just going to highlight what we looked at, and that is the root cause. What we discovered and what we talked about was that we are inconsistent in our pockets of excellence and our pockets of challenges. And so while we have some excellent schools that have B ratings, we also have schools who are IR. And so as a result of that, we have got to make and ensure that we have consistent procedures across the district to replicate those success strategies for all our schools with our district support team. So we're going to continue our support with professional learning communities, our balanced literacy, all the things that we presented in August to train, study the TEKS, unpack the TEKS, make sure teachers know their content with what they're teaching with our specialists, our coordinators, and our academic division.
Why were we inconsistent?
Well, that's a good question. In terms of being inconsistent, you always have good questions, Coach McNeely. And it is inconsistent because when you have schools that are, in the 80s and having that higher performance, they have systems in place. Sometimes it's due to staffing, sometimes it's due to longevity of staffing and, turnover of personnel and things of that nature. So everyone has systems in place that they're working on and developing. They're high quality, but they're inconsistent in terms of the standards based upon like people and learning and those sorts of things that take place when we have, personnel turnover.
Some of the things you listed, that we're going to monitor this, weren't we doing that?
Yes, we were. We were doing.
Doing it consistent, or we just weren't doing it well, or it's just boggles my mind. We're doing good one year, and the next year we just quit doing those things.
Well, no, sir. I don't think anyone quit.
It goes back to make us go back and do what we were supposed to be doing in the first place. It just boggles my mind.
Well, I'm excited about the opportunity to bring that consistency at the level that we need it to be in.
That's a good answer.
Yes, sir. That's my plan. And so in looking forward, that is what's going to be in place, and we've already had district-level meetings with the chiefs, myself, and the C&I division on rolling out a lot of those consistencies that we've already put in place. So we're building and growing, and I look forward to, again, this opportunity to bring that quality that we need in the district.
You answered questions well. Go ahead.
Thank you, sir. Okay, so moving on to our next area for special population, special education, and English learners. This area, with the directors and staff, we looked at monitoring. The root cause here was there were good things going on and we have support staff, but the sufficient monitoring to look at data more regularly is going to increase as a result of our discussions in this area. So those systems are being put in place with our directors and our campus staff. So we're going to be monitoring that not only at the campus level, but at the district level with a higher level of quality and accountability for ourselves.
And I won't even ask you what I'm thinking, but go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, so our last area, this area is for college, career, and military readiness. What we have done with this area, this is not that an area where we're in need of a program change. We actually have excellent programs in place for our college, career, and military readiness initiatives. What we have discovered for our root cause is that, again, due to some transition in personnel, our systems for collecting, reporting, authenticating, and verifying data for the systems for CCMR need to have written protocols and communication in place for that to be at its highest level of effectiveness. So we did not report that data in 2017 with the accuracy that we need to report it for now. As a review, CCMR is a lagging indicator. So the report we got this year was indeed for 2017. So in 2017, CCMR wasn't part of the accountability system. So we have learned, as the transition of the accountability system has come into play, those data points that we need to hone in on, and we are doing very great things in our secondary schools, and now we're getting very good at recording that. So Ms. Cowan and all of the program directors who are here this evening, we have worked very diligently on our summer submission for PEIMS to make sure that all our programmatic options and data are exactly correct. We've signed off on them, and I've personally been in those meetings. Going forward to October 2018, Ms. Cowan and I again, we are collaborative and really team-oriented to work together in this endeavor. And so we have protocols in place where we're going to have all of our graduation data from 2018 entered in October, exactly correctly as we have already collected it. For example, our 6 students who were qualified for intent to be in the military, that number is now at 117. And so through this communication process and our teams working together, we are on top of this, and our CCMR is going to be at 100%. We have to put 95 just to be careful, but we are working very diligently to make sure that every student, every place, every credit we get for CCMR at the high school and at the other secondary schools, the other high schools. So that's it in a nutshell for career and college career and military readiness. That's not really an instructional problem. It's more data that we're working on together. Yes, ma'am.
This may not have anything to do, but would this kind of data that you just talked about go with any of the distinctions or anything that we might get from the state, or not necessarily?
It can. For your high school distinctions, your advanced placement, your dual credit, all those things with those advanced markers, your SAT scores, ACT. So when those things get collected and they're at a higher mark than the other 39 schools in the quartile, like you get in that top 10 quartile, then yes, to answer your question, it can impact those. Okay. The next part of our presentation is going to be the targeted improvement plans for our improvement required elementary campuses. I'm going to step off being the MC and invite Mr. Agnes will be here. He may want to be Mr. Hastings. I don't know. We might need to get him a banner or something. But Mr. Agnes will be with us to go over the Hastings plan. Then following him will be Mr. Nix to report for Acton, and we'll close up with Ms. Fry reporting on Alexander. And thank you very much for your attention. I appreciate it. And as always, I appreciate questions and learning and being part of Duncanville.
Good evening, Madam. Good evening, Madam President, Board of Trustees, and Dr. Smith. I want to take a few minutes to review with you our targeted improvement plan that Ms. Sewell talked to you about just a few minutes ago. All right. One of the first things we did, one of the first things we did with creating this improvement plan was we had to go through a 4-step process. The first process was to identify the problem. We started with reading. We noticed that 51% of our students performed at the minimum state standards on the Reading Star Assessment, as indicated by our recent STAR scores. From that, we analyzed the data to develop a root cause. Why are our students performing at that level based on the instruction that they received? And we noticed that students are entering our 3rd grade with significant learning gaps in reading. So that needs to be addressed. So, as a result of identifying the root cause, we developed an overall reading goal for our campus for the 2018-2019 school year. And that is by May of 2019, between 65% and 70% of our 3rd and 4th grade students will perform on grade level at the MEETS level, not just approaching, but the MEETS level, as indicated by the STAR reading assessment. We developed some strategies to implement and to monitor throughout the year. Some of those include data meetings to analyze our assessment data, our campus assessments, as well as our district assessments. Also, looking at our walkthrough data as far as the consistency of the implementation of instruction. Also, reviewing our lesson plans to make sure that our teachers are planning lessons that are to the rigor of what is necessary for students to be successful on that assessment. Looking at student attendance, making sure that we are coming up with ways and indicators for getting our kids to school, monitoring that closely, and then also looking at our discipline data. On the screen, it shows reading goals, but actually these are some reading initiatives that we have developed as a result of looking at the data. And we have several initiatives, but I just want to highlight 3 of them for you tonight. The first reading initiative that we've put in place is that 100% of our ELAR teachers will attend the district-initiated professional development on a balanced literacy framework. And that alone will help with the consistency with implementation of instruction. The second initiative was for teachers to provide reading interventions for students using guided reading during their English language arts and reading instructional time. So teachers have been able to provide that instruction during the ELAR block. They've been trained on how to deliver guided reading instruction, and now the time is for us to implement that and the monitoring piece with us walking in classes and making sure that that's happening. And the last initiative is for teachers and students to develop monthly iStation, developmental reading assessment, and district assessment goals, helping our kids to be more informed about how they're doing and then set goals for what they want to do to get to that next level. We did the exact same thing when we identified our math instruction. We identified the problem that 55% of our students perform at the minimum state standards on the Math STAR assessment. Looked at the data, analyzed the data, and developed a root cause. Again, students are entering 3rd grade with significant learning gaps in math. From that, we developed a goal that by May of 2018, between 65 and 70% of 3rd and 4th grade students will perform on grade level at the MEETS level as indicated by the STAR Math assessment. We've implemented some strategies to monitor that, such as looking at data meetings to analyze assessment data, walkthroughs, lesson plans, student attendance, and discipline data. We've also identified 3 math strategies that I want to highlight with you tonight, and that is, one is 3rd and 4th grade math teachers will be trained on how to analyze the Math STAR assessment to look for trends of frequency of questions and those high-stake teaks that are tested in subsequent years. We also will develop a school-wide plan for monitoring Tier 1 instruction, meaning in those classrooms, coaching teachers to deliver a better product for kids so that we don't have to spend as much time to provide interventions for kids.
Are you already doing that?
We are doing that currently.
So you've already got the plan?
Plan for monitoring Tier 1 instruction? Yes, that's a part of our T-Test coaching plan that we have in place for coaching teachers. As we go in and do walkthroughs, we immediately give them feedback on how to improve on that instruction.
Is that new this year?
Sir?
Is that new this year?
Well, the coaching process is, we're learning more and more about the coaching process with the T-Test plan in place. So we're giving teachers immediate feedback as opposed to waiting for teachers to respond to us. We're actually pulling teachers in and actually giving them that feedback, having that dialogue about what's the best practices are, and then having teachers develop a next step for improving on.
And that's new this year. You weren't doing that last year.
We were actually beginning the process of coaching, but exactly pulling teachers in and meeting with them immediately, that immediate feedback, that was not always consistent. And then our last initiative that we have is data meetings will be conducted with the teaching staff and the RTI case manager to review student progress to see how students are doing throughout the year.
Who are the RTI case managers?
Those are our math and reading center teachers, math and reading center teachers. They're RTI case managers.
Okay.
Yes.
And my guess is that you're not, I mean, this plan's say for 3rd and 4th, that these plans are for K through
Yeah,
whatever grade level they're on, so that we're trying to reach those kids.
Yeah.
And we don't have as many when they begin third grade.
Well, one of the things we want to do is make sure that this is a plan is to address the immediate concern is that getting those third and fourth graders to get to MEETS level. But we also have long-term plans that are in place that mirror this for our K2 with guided reading as far as, and also providing interventions for K2, having those data meetings with those K2 teachers. They may not have a STAR assessment that they have, but they also there are some measurements that we look at, such as how students are moving with developmental reading assessments, as well as our local district assessments, looking at that data and providing the coaching feedback. Are there any questions, additional questions?
You're satisfied with this plan that we're sending in? You're satisfied with it?
I am. I've had it vetted by not only my chief of schools, but also my professional service provider. She's looked at it.
This is gonna fix what we weren't doing last year?
This is going to actually improve the teaching and learning at the campus. That is going to give us the scores that we need in order for students to be successful.
So you're satisfied with it?
I'm satisfied with the plan. My professional service provider and I are meeting on a weekly basis to looking at the plan to make sure that we're implementing the plan with fidelity and then making any needed changes to be sure that our students meet the goals that we've set.
Okay.
All right. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Smith, it is my absolute pleasure to present to you the plan for Acton Elementary in lieu of and in support of the principal of Acton, Ms. Kyla Bowens. And so I'm going to share with you a couple of things today. Same process was followed at Acton. But I'd like to, before we get started, I'd like to bring a couple of things to your attention. First, this is a plan that is a fluid plan. And what I mean by that is this is a plan that as we see the need for improvement, as we see things are working or are not working, it is our responsibility to address changes in the plan immediately. And so although this is a plan that's being presented to you today and also will be presented to TEA, this is a living, breathing document that we will consistently monitor, that will consistently ensure that best practice is implemented, and that we are doing the things that are ensuring student learning. I'd also like to share or make a statement before we get started that the Acton team worked very diligently to address this plan, and Mr. McNeely continues to ask what I believe to be very logical and very poignant questions, and that is, did we do this last year? And why are we seeing things in this plan that seem to be continued practices? And the reality is that there are some holes in some things that we could have done better in leadership last year. There are some things that the campus principals could have monitored a little bit more closely. And we assumed where we should have ensured. And so that's why specifically in this plan, you'll see some things that were done last year, were in place last year. But with the support of the PSP, the support of myself, the monitoring, the strategic, the targeted, ensuring that those things are taking place to the level and to the degree that they need to be taking place, we believe that we have a plan moving forward that will improve student success. So with that being said, I'd like to walk you through the plan for Acton Elementary. And we'll start with the problem that's identified here as reading. 71% of the third and fourth grade students did not meet grade level in reading at Acton. The root cause, the campus feels, is the inconsistent implementation of research-based learn reading strategies from professional development offerings that negatively impacted student performance. Our teachers...
Tell me what it says from professional development offerings. What is it? explain that to me, please?
Yes, sir. Teachers at Acton receive multiple hours of professional development, both from the district level and at the campus level. And so the professional development offerings that are mentioned here are those professional development offers that were both from the district and the campus, and also from the region.
I was gonna say, we got a whole department supposed to be doing that. Where
Yep.
were they last year? Were we not doing the right professional development? Were
Yes, sir.
we not planning right? There's
The
that
profe-
word, inconsistent again, drives me crazy.
Yes, sir. The root cause here is not necessarily the professional development, but what the teachers are taking from that professional development and actually implementing it to the classroom. And the actual monitoring from leadership that was taking
So we
place.
really weren't monitoring well enough.
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right, that makes sense.
So the goal for,
It's not
for
a great reason, but it makes sense.
Yes, sir. So the goal for this year on the 2019 STAR reading test is that the percent of students meeting grade level in the 3rd and 4th grade will increase by 20%. The implemented strategy here is that campus leaders will schedule on-campus professional development offerings, which will include research-based instructional reading strategies. Campus and district leaders will provide professional development offerings, which will include, those strategies that we just mentioned, and the monitoring that we just talked about with fidelity of the implementation of what teachers have learned will be there. The other thing that Acton has here is that Acton last year did not have the benefit of having a reading center teacher. And so this year, that will be the case at Acton. And that teacher will be in place to assist with intense interventions. That wasn't the case last year. And so with all of those supports in place, we feel as though, and the campus feels as though, that's a absolute positive in the right direction with addressing the concerns there. The campus has delineated 3 phases of this support: short-term, intermediate, and long-term. For the short-term goals, the PLCs, at Acton, all of those teachers have been to PLC training, which wasn't the case last year. PLCs are not new. However, the structure, the intentionality, the training, and as we've mentioned, the monitoring of those PLCs, that the teachers are actually moving forth with what they need to be moving forth with, will be happening more intentfully this year.
So we're gonna monitor better.
That is correct, sir.
That's just plain language, right?
That's the key.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So when you say fidelity and you're using big words on that, we're gonna monitor and make sure they're doing what they're supposed to do, right?
We're going to monitor and make sure that what's happening, what needs to be happening is happening.
That's a good way to say it, okay.
Yes, sir. Second goal there for short term is that all reading teachers will receive professional development to support improvement in lesson planning and instructional delivery, as evidenced through monitoring weekly lesson plans. And those classroom walks and check-ins, as was previously stated, providing quality feedback to teachers in a timely manner when we see things are not going right. Monitoring it, addressing it, supporting it. Lastly, goal 3, that by September 2018, 100% of Acton teachers will receive professional development training on balanced literacy. We've heard a lot about balanced literacy, and that is an initiative of our district, and in ensuring that that is happening, that it's happening in every classroom with every teacher. For our intermediate goal, all reading teachers will demonstrate the ability to design and deliver rigorous and aligned instruction as evidenced in weekly lesson plans. It's just monitoring, once again, those lesson plans in correlation and in alignment with what is actually being taught. Administrators will be more strategic with their time. You know, oftentimes as principals and as administrators, time can get away, and we don't really, everything can grapple that time instead of just being focused and laser focused on instruction. And so working with those administrators, myself, the PSP, to make sure that that time in the classroom is well spent, that time monitoring and observing and providing that feedback is well spent, much more than we spent last year. Lastly, Teacher specialists and reading center teachers will support in conducting those observations and coaching teachers to be successful. And then the long-term goal, all reading teachers will demonstrate fluency in leading data conversations and will show improvement with instructional delivery as evidenced by student growth in meets and masters. And having those teachers to track that student data. And even having students track their own data. Then the reading center teacher, the special education teachers, gifted and talented specialists, and teacher specialists, and all reading teachers will effectively implement intervention and extension activities to meet the needs of diverse learners. And once again, that wasn't an option for Acton last year, just due to the lack of that position. And that's for reading. The second area for improvement is math. And you'll find much the same here. Once again, it's just making sure that that campus administration is monitoring what they need to be monitoring and providing that feedback to those teachers and supporting that improvement. 72% of the 3rd and 4th grade students did not meet grade level in math. The lack of high-quality instruction that included learned, research-based math instructional strategies from professional development offerings negatively impacted student performance. Our goal here is that the 3rd and 4th grade will increase by 20%. And once again, Ms. McNeely, just to reach on a point that you said earlier, although our focus is in 3rd and 4th grade, this plan is school-wide. This plan to monitor the quality of instruction, provide feedback, the support for interventions is school-wide, but this plan is specifically for 3rd and 4th grade. Strategically implemented, we're going to ensure that our research-based instructional math strategies are implemented and that we're monitoring once again to make sure that it's happening.
Mr. Nix?
Yes, sir.
Just a couple of quick questions about the levels. On the math instruction, 72% of the kids did not meet grade level in math, which means that only 38% of the kids did. If we're going to increase by 20%, that only brings us up to 58%. Is that going to get us out of IR into where we want to be? Is that still below the 60% that I don't know if that's the right level or not, but, you know, because if that's not going to get us there, we need to do better than 20% of that. And that may be asking for more than we can do, but I don't want to have another year of IR from any of these campuses. And the same holds true for the reading. I think it was 71%, which means only 39%. If we bring it up 20, we're still at only 59%. And to me, that doesn't sound really good. It may be, I don't know. But I'm just concerned that, you know, we're going to have to do better than what this is proposing that we do to get where we want to be. And it amazes me that only, and I'm not a teacher, and God forbid I was one, but that 31% or 38 or 39% of our kids is all we're getting to. I mean, we've got to do better than that. I mean, we just have to, you know. And it was seemed to me that where we really need to put a lot of emphasis, we discussed this earlier, is in 1st and 2nd grade. Because if these kids are coming to the 3rd grade unprepared, it doesn't do us any good to start hammering on them in 3rd grade to try to get them prepared then. They got to be prepared when they get there.
Yes, sir.
So I know that it says for all teachers, and I get that, but I just wanted to make sure that you understand how I feel, that we've got to get better in K through 2 before we're going to ever get better in 3 and 4. So I just encourage you to tell people that and to preach that, because we've got to.
Yes, sir.
We just got to.
Ms. Kennedy, you raised several great points. To your last point first, setting the solid foundation is extremely key, and you're absolutely correct. We have to make sure that those foundational grades are solid, and that's what we're working towards. To your first point, the increase of 20%. I know that you guys are aware of this, but it's at approaches, meets, and masters. And so we're looking at the meets category in terms of improvement. And so in this particular area, a 20% increase in the meets performance, specifically in these areas of math and reading, has an aggregate component of increasing the student performance enough to get this campus out of IR. So although it looks like, yes, and of course, we want to exceed 20%, but if this campus increases 20% in the area of meets, specifically in reading and in math, the way that it's calculated by the state, it will have an overall increase on Domain 1, which will have an impact on how it's calculated from the state to get this particular campus out of IR. I don't know if
Yes, Ms. Nix, you did a good job explaining that. I wanted Mrs. Bonneau to come up as well, because the way the accountability system is structured, not having clarity on the percentages could be misleading. It may come across as if you're not striving to meet all students. And so I wanted you to be sure to explain how the percentages work. You addressed that in last month, but this would be a good time just to bring clarity for everyone.
So the system that we work in now for accountability is very different than the system has been in the past. So like I addressed last month, one of the pieces that is is a real mindset change for everyone in our system, including most importantly, probably our classroom teachers, is that we've always focused on our percentage of students that passed the test. Well, 2 years ago, the state changed how they called passed the test to approaches, meets, and masters. That was 1 year before they changed the accountability structure. When they changed the accountability structure, they labeled those designations, if you will, as approaches is barely passed or just below grade level, meets is at grade level, and masters is college ready. When they did that, they said instead of measuring our students at past, which is approaches, which is the system we've been on since we've had accountability, now we're going to take the average of our approaches students, the average of our students at meets, and the average of our students at masters, and we're going to average those three together, and that's how we're going to get our score. So when you think, and I know just from reading about some of you and speaking to you, that many of you come from an education background. If you've ever taught in a core class, we used to talk about bubble kids. You have these bubble kids. If I can, this student needs 3 more questions, and they're going to pass. This person needs 5 more questions, and we got to let's work on this TEK or that TEK, and we can get them there. Well, now we've gone in 1 year time from that mentality to every kid is in their very own bubble, because I need to look at this student that needs 3 more questions to get to approaches, but I've got to look at this student who needs 3 more questions to get to meets, and I've got to look at this student who needs 3 more questions to get to masters, because that's how we're measured. It's very different. So what has happened is you average those 3 numbers together. You're going to come out with a number that is not equal to what they scale it to for A through F. I wish I could explain that formula to you. I'm just going to call it TEA, magic math. You put in one number and TEA spits out a score for you. But what it equates to is if those 3 numbers average together to be about a 60 equates to a 90. So a 60 is an A. So by moving your students 20% at meets, you're also moving your students 20% at approaches, because those students that counted for you at meets counted for you at approaches as well. So that's an acceleration of growing that overall percentage in Domain 1 and student achievement, which will, although I understand exactly where you're coming from, you do the math and it still seems like that number is not where we want it to be, and it's not. But it would be enough to push that campus up to the point that we wouldn't be having these same conversations again next year. Does that help clarify how those?
20% is that's the bare minimum to get them out of IR?
So I would have to do the math to see what the exact percentage would be.
Then why would we come up with 20%?
Yes. That's the right number to get us out of IR. I don't want to speak for you.
Short answer is.
That is the absolute correct answer, and the answer is question. The answer is yes. 20% is the minimum that will get this campus out of IR. So of course, we're shooting for much higher than that, but this is our goal because we're trying to get out of IR.
And I understand that, but would it make more sense to shoot for a higher, or have a higher goal? In case we didn't get to that, then at least we would get to 20%. I mean, everybody likes, maybe not everybody likes goals, but we know that people perform better if they have a goal. They know where they're supposed to be. And if we're saying we're satisfied with getting to minimum, I'm not satisfied with that.
Absolutely.
Maybe we should increase that to 25%.
Absolutely.
And maybe it's not reachable, I don't know. But, you know, it would seem to me to have a higher goal to get to where we want to get. And if 20 is where we want to get, then our goal should be higher than 20, not 20.
Well, that'll be definitely something I'll work with the campus administration on to make sure they understand that our goal is not the minimum. Our goal is to get out of IR, but our goal is to ensure that every student is successful at the maximum capacity.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Are there any other questions that I could answer on behalf of the administration for Acton Elementary?
And
Thank you.
who wrote that plan now? Tell me again.
If I heard you correctly.
Who wrote that plan?
So this plan was written by the leadership team of Acton Elementary. Principal had,
They have teachers involved in it?
there were teachers involved in this.
Yeah, writing the plan,
Yes, sir. So they had teachers involved. Ms. Rhodes, if I misspeak, please let me know. They had teachers involved, the administration was involved, teacher specialists involved. So they had a leadership team that was involved. And then, of course, the PSP vetted the plan, and I was part of that vetting process as well. Thank you very much.
Good evening, Madam President, Board of Trustees, Dr. Smith. I'm Erin Fry, and I'm here to elaborate a little bit further on some of the information that we covered last month in the overview of our approach for our improvement plan. For Alexander Elementary, as with some of the other elementaries, our focus is really on improving reading and math, both. We chose to categorize things a little bit differently. And so this first category is student achievement, which targets both reading and math. So I've collapsed those two. Last time I was here, I spoke to you about our endeavor to take a look at the operational, cultural, and academic changes that we needed to make. And while this plan doesn't flesh things out in those three categories, I hope that you will see the influence of those three things in the different strategies and action steps that we plan to implement. So to start with the student achievement category, our problem that we identified was 68% of overall STAR testing students did not meet achievement at that meet standard level that we just discussed. When we started looking at what the root cause was, we determined that there was a lack of understanding of the TEAC at the cognition level. What are we really asking students to do, and how does the test ask them to perform? So that was critical. And then a lack of alignment of the TEAC with the daily objective and formative assessment practices. Those daily assessment practices, teacher-created things that were being put in front of students. Insufficient analysis of student work in progress also. We saw as an area where we need to do a better job. So our 2018-19 goal is that on the 2019 STAR reading, math, and writing tests combined for 3rd and 4th grade students who meet grade level standards, we want to increase that by 24%. 24% effectively doubles the number of students, the percentage of students who would meet standard from last year. So it's a 50% increase in that category. So we felt like 24% was a doable, but still a very high goal for us. And our strategy that we're looking at to try to move this needle is to implement ongoing PLC changed and new PLC structures this year for planning and aligning instruction, and assessments, the analysis of student work and data, and providing consistent monitoring, feedback, and coaching. And that's really the cycle that you're going to see, those mechanisms. It's going to be evaluating data, ensuring things that are happening, and then putting some steps in place when things, depending on how students perform. So that cycle is going to be repeated. So for student achievement, those are our elements and our mechanisms that we think will implement the change. So our specific goals, what will it look like? How will we do this? We have brought in some professional development already by Quantum Learning on building classroom culture and management. As I said last month, relationships and good structures, good practices are the foundation for making sure that we have a conducive environment. So we started there. We also are in the process of weekly administrative classroom walkthroughs in all ELAR and math classrooms, and that's campus-wide because we have discussed as a leadership team the need to bolster what we're doing in K1, 2, because that is a natural feeder for 3 and 4. The evidence comes out at 3 and 4, but certainly the practice does not. And so the timeliness of those feedback conferences within 48 hours, that is something we've already started. T-test walkthrough and observation summary data gives us more of a big picture analysis. When we observe in classrooms and we give feedback to teachers, that's more on a micro scale. It's what happened that day. Looking at T-test analysis gives us more of a panoramic of trends that are happening on the campus. And so when we can see those trends and see those strengths and weaknesses, it enables us to target those things a little bit more deliberately, bring in more training and development in areas where we're seeing the need. And so that will then guide our efforts throughout the year. As Mr. Nick said, this is a fluid document, and so we leave open some room to target some things that maybe we didn't know we needed to target just yet because they've evolved from the data.
Ms. Fry?
Yes, sir.
Could you tell me what quantum learning is?
Quantum Learning is an organization, and they are based out of Eric Jensen's work. Eric Jensen is a researcher, and he's done a lot of work about teaching students in poverty and trauma and the environment and the culture that sometimes those students bring with them into the classroom. And so we felt like that was a very good fit to try to meet our students' needs where they are.
I guess the obvious question that I would have is, the other two campuses, what they presented, they didn't mention using anything like this. Are they using quantum learning, or is that something that you found to be successful in previous places? And I guess my question would be, why aren't others using that if you are?
I don't know what they might be using or what they might be pursuing. I sure have talked the quantum learning up to anyone who has asked me about it and who I've communicated with. 100% of my staff on the feedback from that training said that it was one of the best professional developments they'd ever attended. And so it is certainly something that I will tout and I will share with others. I don't know if that's part of their plan at this point, though.
Well, the reason I ask is that, you know, I'm one of those people that believes that if something works and it works well, then we all should use it. We shouldn't have one campus doing their thing and another campus doing their thing and another campus doing their thing. We need to find what works best for kids and use that on all campuses. I don't know whether quantum learning is that or not, but since you're the only one that mentioned a particular type of professional development, I'm not saying the others don't have something as good, but it just bothers me that we don't have standardization of what we do. And to me, that's got to be one of the root causes of why we're where we are, because everybody does their own thing. And sometimes their own thing just doesn't work. It's no reflection on them. It just doesn't work. And so we need to find the thing that works for the kids we have, and then that's what we need to use. We don't need everybody trying something new and different. Somewhere in high school, all these kids are going to come together, and they need to all be taught the same way so that the learning process is the same. You know, it's just wrong what we do about letting everybody do their own thing. I'm sorry.
No,
me preaching.
I appreciate your comments, and I will say that our leadership team pursued this based on the needs that we saw happening at our campus. So it came out of that place.
Just a question, I'm sorry.
All right, so my next category is entitled instruction. And so when we look at the problem identified, we found gaps in learning and achievement were not fully or sufficiently addressed, and they persisted in student groups. It wasn't localized to any one particular group. We saw gaps in several groups. This is the domain 3 of the new accountability system, the closing the gaps part. When we started drilling down to figure out what our root cause was there, what we came up with was ultimately an insufficient implementation of remediation, intervention, or enrichment opportunities. Ms. Bonneau mentioned students at all places on the spectrum needing to grow from wherever they are. And so students who were behind, we weren't remediating those gaps and intervening sufficiently for their progress, just like the students at the high performing end of the spectrum, we weren't pushing them to greater levels. So it's kind of a whole scale root cause there. And so our goal right now is by September 20th, the school will have implemented weekly remediation, intervention, and or enrichment opportunities for all students to improve student performance by 24%, again, on the STAR. And so this is a K-4 initiative, and it's happening cross-campus in every team. And so the strategy that we're using is to create the structure and the framework for the weekly intervention and enrichment opportunities during the ELAR, English Language Arts and Reading, and math blocks. And so how will we do this one? First of all, professional development has been provided for all teachers on formative assessment creation and data tracking methods. That's an ongoing professional development that will evolve as teachers' capacity build. When you know better, you do better, and so then we can push the next envelope on that. But that is professional development from inside with our content coordinators, our teacher specialists, from the administrative staff. It's inclusive of anyone and everyone who could speak support into the system. Our second element there is to conduct data analysis meetings for 4-week and 9-week district assessment or benchmarks to identify weak areas and students in need of more intensive remediation. That's on top of our weekly analysis of the smaller scale, daily, or formative assessments that we are collecting and then reviewing for student progress. And then third, teachers will demonstrate mastery of creating common formative assessments. That's what we're working towards. Right now, it's a heavily coached process with the idea that we are going to be teaching and learning all together and getting better at creating those, getting better at checking progress and monitoring that so that that process can continue as it goes. So at this time, if you have further questions, I'll be happy to address them.
Any questions? No, thank you.
Thank you.
I have 2 motions to consider. The first one is for L1. Do I have a motion to consider approval of district plan for closing the gaps in student achievement?
Move to approve.
I second it.
All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Thank you. Motion passes 7-0. The next motion is in regard to L2, 3, and 4. Do I have a motion to consider approval of Texas Academic Intervention System, TAIS, plans for Hastings, Acton, and Alexander?
So moved.
Phil McNeely made the motion and seconded by Joe Veracruz. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion carries 7-0. We now move to the information discussion agenda for the annual athletics report presented by Coach Harper.
Madam President, Board of Trustees, Dr. Smith, the 2017-2018 athletic calendar year was very successful with a number of notable accomplishments in the athletic program. The girls' track team won a state championship in the 4x200 meter relay. And 6 other sports won district championships. This was the most district championships won in a single year in the past 15 years in Duncanville ISD. The 6 district championship teams were football, swimming, tennis, boys basketball, girls basketball, and softball. Our postseason accomplishments. By-district finalists, volleyball and girls soccer, area finalists, softball, boys soccer, football, boys basketball, regional qualifiers, tennis, cross country, boys track and swimming, regional finalists, girls basketball, and state finalists, girls track. Panther football was led by head coach Reginald Samples with a season record of 11-1. They were the 7-6A district champions. This football team was the first outright district champions since 2003 in Duncanville ISD. Panther tennis, led by head coach Trent Sellers. The team tennis was the district champion 7-6A. Fall tennis made the playoffs for the 11th straight year. Spring tennis, we had 3 individual tennis players advance to regionals. Pantherette basketball, led by head coach Kathy Self-Morgan, was 7-6A district champions and the regional finalists. Panther softball, led by head coach Brett Duff, season record 23-2. The Panther softball team was the first district champions in school history. They were also a 6A area finalist. DHS girls track, led by head coach Wyvette Green. They were state champions in the 4x200 meter relay, and they were 3rd place at the state track meet. DHS swim team, led by head coach Stephanie Berner Franco, also won 7-6A district champions and were also regional qualifiers. Panther volleyball, led by head coach Lynn Evans, with a season record of 23-13. They were 6A by-district finalists. DHS boys basketball, led by head coach Corey Chisholm, with a season record of 26-8. They were the 7-6A district champions and area finalists. DHS cross country, led by head coach Lisa Reed, were regional finalists. DHS boys soccer, led by head coach Nuno Passos, had a season record of 15-3-6 and were the 6A area finalists. DHS girls soccer, led by head coach Jessica Perez Woodrum, had a season record of 16-7-3 and were by-district finalists. DHS baseball, led by head coach Scott Fahey, with a season record of 14-17. DHS boys track, led by head coach Leon Paul, were regional finalists. And the DHS golf team, led by head coach Dave Beck, finished 3rd place in district, the highest our boys have finished in a number of years in golf. One of the main successes that I'm most proud of as an athletic director is the student athletic academic success. It was tremendous this past year. we had 30 athletes who were recognized in our inaugural athletic scholarship program, where we awarded $2.6 million in athletic scholarships to Duncanville seniors. I'm also very proud of the creation of what is called the Academic All-Duncanville. Student athletes who were on the AB Honor Roll during their season receive an Academic All-Duncanville patch. This patch is what they put on their letter jacket. Created this patch as the athletic director really for two main purposes: to give recognition for being Academic All-Duncanville, but also give recognition to maybe some of those students who aren't first-team All-District and don't get the recognition, but it gives the opportunity for kids to have something on their letter jacket so they can be proud of their academic success. We had close to 100 athletes receive Academic All-Duncanville in this first year. 2018, 2019 athletic continuous improvement, things that I believe that we can get better at this year. We need to continue to stress academics. We want to stress academics in the 9th grade. As kids enter the 9th grade, we want to make sure we stress their GPA. A lot of our kids and their parents believe that GPA starts when they start getting recruited their junior and senior year. Their GPA, again, starts their 9th grade year, and it adds up through their 4 years in high school. We also will have an NCAA recruiting symposium this next spring. And the NCAA recruiting symposium, I've had it other places, and what you do is you bring in athletes and their parents to better understand the recruiting process. A number of our kids, they get a letter from a college and they believe they're being recruited. And we have to get into more detail about how they get recruited, what being recruited really means. And this is going to be a great program for the parents to be able to come and see all the scores going back to that GPA, see what their student and what their athlete has to have GPA-wise in order to get into a Division I school, in order to get into a Division II and Division III school. And so this symposium, I believe, will do a great job informing our students and their parents. And of course, we even want to get more students in the 2nd year on the Academic All-Duncanville. We also need to continue to upgrade our facilities. We've done a great job this past year, of course, with the upgrading of our facilities in our gym and adding the bleachers in the Sandra Meadows Arena. This next year, as a district, we have to look at replacing the turf at Panther Stadium. The turf is 10 years old and is in need of resurfacing. Middle school vertical alignment. This past year, we made great strides in our middle school improvement. We had a number of programs that we implemented. One of those was our middle school cup. And I believe as an athletic director and a former coach, you get better through competition. And what we did is we emphasized competition amongst our 3 middle schools. And what we did is we gave a certain amount of points for how your team finished in every sport. And in this past year, in 2017, Byrd Middle School boys were the winner of the Boys Middle School Cup, and the Kennemer girls were the winners of the Girls Middle School Cup. And the winners get a breakfast at the end of the year. Their coaches get a breakfast, and they get their name on a plaque. And this plaque is in the athletic office, so anyone that comes in the athletic office can see who the middle school cup winner was for each particular year. One of the most proudest things that I'm really, really proud of is our middle school trainers, in implementing our middle school trainers. I've had a situation a number of years ago with a young man who collapsed at a middle school practice. And now with our middle school trainers and the implementation of middle school trainers, there's not an activity that the middle school is not a practice nor a game that a certified athletic trainer is not there watching kids. So I'm really, really proud of our middle school training program that has begun this year. And then we want to continue with community support and sponsorships. we want to continue to increase our sponsorships and community support. We've added a number of sponsors at athletic events, including Charlton Methodist, who has donated or has sponsored and added a great deal of money to the district through their sponsorship, which includes $6,500 per year for a total of 3-year agreement, close to $20,000. Freedom Chevrolet, Spring Creek, Chicken Express, and Dickey's Barbecue have also become sponsors in just this past year. Are there any questions?
No, thank you for your
Thank you.
report. Is there any? No. Thank you for coming to the meeting. Being that there are no further items to discuss, this meeting is adjourned.